Welcome to Chasing Curiosity. TV, subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Breaking news: tensions in the South China Sea have reached a terrifying new peak, sending shockwaves through the region and across the globe. The world is now watching as a long-simmering dispute threatens to erupt into open conflict, with the fate of an entire region hanging in the balance. In a dramatic escalation, Chinese nuclear-capable H-6K bombers have been spotted circling ominously above Scarborough Shoal, their silhouettes casting a long shadow over the contested waters below. These bombers, capable of carrying devastating payloads, are a stark reminder of the military might that China can bring to bear in the region. Scarborough Shoal, a tiny but strategically vital atoll, lies just 120 nautical miles from the Philippine coast. Though small in size, its significance is enormous. Claimed by both China and the Philippines, it has become a flashpoint in the struggle for control over the South China Sea's rich resources and crucial shipping lanes. This latest escalation follows a shocking maritime confrontation. A Philippine Coast Guard vessel, on what was supposed to be a routine resupply mission to support Filipino fishermen, was rammed by a much larger Chinese Coast Guard ship. The impact was sudden and violent, a clear demonstration of China's willingness to use force to assert its claims. As news of the incident spread, world leaders watched anxiously. Emergency sessions were called at the United Nations, and global headlines blared warnings of a potential flashpoint that could draw in major powers. The crisis has pushed the region closer to the brink of conflict than at any time in recent memory. The BRP Gabriela Silang, a Philippine Coast Guard ship, was on a mission to protect and escort Filipino fishing boats operating in their traditional fishing grounds. But as they approached Scarborough Shoal, they were confronted by a formidable wall of Chinese ships, blocking their path and signaling that they were not welcome. Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels, far outnumbering the lone Philippine ship, moved swiftly to intercept. The sheer number and size of the Chinese fleet was overwhelming, leaving the Filipinos isolated and vulnerable in the open sea. The Chinese ships blared their horns, issued stern warnings over loudspeakers and began aggressive maneuvers, crisscrossing dangerously close to the Philippine vessels. The tension in the air was palpable, as every move risked sparking a wider confrontation. Suddenly, chaos erupted. A Chinese cutter collided with a Philippine vessel, sending shockwaves through the crew. At the same time, other Chinese ships unleashed powerful water cannons on the Filipino fishing boats, drenching them and forcing a hasty retreat. The message was unmistakable: resistance would be met with overwhelming force. The message from Beijing was clear and unmistakable: Scarborough Shoal is ours. China's actions were not just about territory but about sending a signal to the world that it will not back down from its claims, no matter the cost. Within hours, satellite imagery confirmed the worst fears of many observers. China had deployed H-6K bombers, capable of carrying nuclear cruise missiles, to fortified military outposts in the Spratly Islands, further south. This move marked a significant escalation, raising the stakes for everyone involved. These bombers were soon seen conducting regular patrols directly over Scarborough Shoal, their presence a constant reminder of the firepower now poised over the disputed waters. The skies above the shoal have become a stage for military posturing, with each flight a show of strength and a warning to rivals. This is no longer just a message to the Philippines. It's a direct challenge to the United States and the international order. The presence of nuclear-capable bombers and the aggressive actions at sea have forced the U.S. and its allies to reconsider their own strategies in the region, as the risk of miscalculation grows with every passing day. The dragon has not just bared its teeth, it has shown its nuclear fire. The world is now confronted with the reality that the South China Sea is not just a regional dispute, but a potential flashpoint for global conflict. With nuclear weapons now part of the equation, the world watches, holding its breath, uncertain of what comes next. As the crisis deepens, the fate of Scarborough Shoal, and perhaps the peace of the entire region, hangs in the balance. The next move could determine not just who controls these waters, but the future of international order itself. The arrival of Xi'an H-6K bombers marks a chilling new chapter in the ongoing tensions of the South China Sea. These aircraft, with their imposing silhouettes and unmistakable presence, signal a dramatic escalation in the region's military posturing. Their deployment is not just a show of force, it's a message, clear and unmistakable, to all who watch the skies and the seas below. These are not mere patrol planes circling the horizon. The H-6K bombers are strategic assets, designed for long-range missions and equipped to carry the formidable CJ-20 cruise missiles that are not only highly accurate, but also capable of delivering nuclear warheads. Each bomber, loaded with these weapons, represents a significant leap in China's ability to project power far beyond its shores. The conflict here has evolved, What once centered on territorial disputes and maritime boundaries has now shifted into the dangerous realm of nuclear brinkmanship. The presence of nuclear-capable bombers and missiles raises the stakes for every nation involved, making each encounter fraught with the risk of catastrophic escalation. Bombers flying near Philippine airspace are now a constant, looming threat. Their regular patrols serve as a reminder of the region's volatility, keeping both the Philippine military and its allies on high alert. Every radar blip, every engine roar overhead, is a reminder of the delicate balance between peace and conflict. Alongside these bombers, China has positioned advanced anti-ship missile batteries on its man-made islands. The DF-21D and DF-26, ominously nicknamed carrier killers, are designed to target and destroy even the most advanced naval vessels, including aircraft carriers, at great distances. Their presence further complicates any potential military response. Together, these bombers and missile systems create a formidable anti-access area denial bubble, a zone where any foreign military movement is met with overwhelming risk. For the United States, this is a clear warning. Any intervention in the region could come at a tremendous cost. For the Philippines, it's a stark warning of overwhelming force at its doorstep. For the US, it's a direct challenge to its long-standing commitments and its ability to operate freely in international waters. China's rapid militarization of artificial islands, complete with runways, hangars, radar domes, and fortified structures, has transformed the South China Sea into a heavily fortified military stronghold. These installations are not just symbolic, they are fully functional, bristling with advanced technology and weaponry. The deployment of bombers and missiles is the final step in this transformation. These bases are now fully operational military outposts, capable of launching and supporting sustained military operations at a moment's notice. The South China Sea has been fundamentally militarized. The presence of these bombers, flying in formation above contested waters, is undeniable proof that the balance of power in the region has shifted, and the world is watching anxiously to see what happens next. Scarborough Shoal, known as Panatag Shoal to Filipinos, is far more than just a scattering of rocks and reefs in the vast South China Sea. It is a place of deep significance, woven into the daily lives and history of countless Filipinos. For generations, these waters have provided a rich source of fish and livelihood, sustaining entire coastal communities who depend on the bounty of the sea. To these communities, Scarborough Shoal is not just a distant outcrop, it's a lifeline, a source of food, income, and cultural identity. The rhythms of life here are tied to the tides and the catch, with families relying on the sea for survival. Since 2012, China's blockade has upended this way of life. Filipino fishermen are routinely harassed, blocked, and forced to turn back, devastating local livelihoods and fueling deep resentment and frustration. The sense of injustice runs deep, as families struggle to make ends meet. Strategically, the shoal's location is critical. It sits just over 200 kilometers from Luzon, the Philippines' largest island, and is alarmingly close to Manila and key military bases. Whoever controls Scarborough Shoal holds a gateway to the Philippine heartland. If China were to establish a permanent base here, it would give Beijing the power to monitor, influence, and potentially control vital sea lanes connecting the South China Sea to the Pacific Ocean. This would shift the balance of power in the region, raising concerns among neighboring countries and global powers alike. Seizing the shoal would not only cement China's dominance in the South China Sea, but also dismiss international law, especially the 2016 Arbitral Tribunal ruling, which invalidated China's sweeping claims. The world watches as legal decisions are ignored and tensions escalate. The environmental toll is severe. Destructive fishing practices, dredging, and ship waste have turned once vibrant reefs into underwater wastelands. The loss of biodiversity threatens not just the ecosystem, but the future of those who depend on it. The fight for Scarborough Shoal is about more than territory. It's a struggle for sovereignty, security, and the survival of a critical marine sanctuary. The outcome will shape the fate of the region, its people, and the fragile environment for generations to come. Despite overwhelming odds, the Philippines refuses to be intimidated. Manila's strategy, assertive transparency, documenting and publicizing every act of Chinese aggression. Hundreds of diplomatic protests have been filed, creating a powerful record of China's violations. The Philippines has rallied allies, strengthening security ties with the US, Japan, Australia, and Europe. Military modernization is underway, focusing on patrol vessels, anti-ship missiles, and joint exercises. By grounding its position in international law, the Philippines frames this as a defense of the rules-based order. Today's crisis is the violent crescendo of a long campaign. Water cannons and ramming are now routine, designed to intimidate and wear down Filipino resistance. Underwater, Filipino fishermen have found Chinese surveillance drones, evidence of a hidden technological battle. High-powered lasers and swarms of maritime militia boats add to the harassment. These fishing boats are state-controlled, forming intimidating blockades. China's gray zone tactics assert control without triggering open war. The conflict spans the surface, the depths, and the air, an all-encompassing campaign. China's dominance relies on a three-tiered strategy: militia, coast guard, and navy. The maritime militia, disguised as fishing boats, swarm contested areas, blocking and harassing foreign vessels. The China Coast Guard, now a paramilitary force, uses its size and law enforcement guise to intimidate and escalate. The People's Liberation Army Navy lingers just over the horizon, ready to intervene if needed. This layered approach creates ambiguity, making it hard for opponents to respond without appearing as aggressors. When militia ram vessels, Beijing blames unruly fishermen. When the Coast Guard acts, it's law enforcement. The Navy's presence is a silent threat. This strategy is designed to win without fighting, by exhausting and intimidating opponents into submission. The crisis puts the 1951 U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty under a dangerous spotlight. Washington has recently affirmed an armed attack on Philippine forces in the South China Sea would invoke U.S. commitments. The deployment of bombers and ramming of ships brings the situation close to that threshold. What counts as an armed attack? A fatal water cannon incident? A sunken ship? The risk of miscalculation is immense. One mistake could trigger a U.S.-China confrontation. China tests the treaty's limits, hoping to paralyze the U.S. response with gray zone tactics. If the U.S. fails to act, its credibility in the Indo-Pacific could collapse. The stakes extend far beyond Scarborough. They threaten the entire regional order. Amid military maneuvers, diplomacy continues, though strained. ASEAN's efforts are slow, but forums like the G7 and Quad keep the issue global. The Philippines has built a diplomatic coalition, isolating China and pressuring moderation. Bilateral talks with China are tense, often ending in deadlock. Proposals for rules of engagement and crisis hotlines exist, but trust is lacking. Breaking this cycle of mistrust is the region's most urgent diplomatic challenge. Scarborough Shoal is more than a reef, it's a test of the international order. The Philippines stands with the 2016 arbitral award. China rejects it, claiming historical rights. The outcome will show if international law still matters in an era of great power rivalry. The South China Sea is a vital artery for global trade. Control here means global leverage. For the U.S., this is a test of leadership and alliance credibility. If America falters, regional instability and nuclear proliferation could follow. The world watches. Will this crisis escalate, or can diplomacy prevail? The fate of Scarborough and the future of the Indo-Pacific hang in the balance.